We're at the Düsseldorf Boat Show and we're going to show you what you can buy brand new with £500,000. But the twist is, later in the video, we're going to go and visit our friend James Barke at boats.co.uk and show what you can buy for £500,000 on the second-hand market. We're going to discuss the benefits of both and the pitfalls. We're going to talk depreciation, running costs, option choices, customization, the lot. Everything you need to think about when you're considering buying new or used. Let's get into it. I'm Jack Haynes. You're watching YachtBuyer. You're getting so much for your money on this boat. A short time, but a fun time. So you see, you start adding these things on, feels very sort of sports car-ish.
I've got some real crackers, cool and it's funky. But don't you, MFD?
The multifunction display, James.
Work.
Avoid.
I call that patina.
Yeah, sure.
Also, can we do a laugh at the socks? Because I've got, my frog socks. Yeah. Well, you got to have a shout window, haven't you?
I'm 6'5" and I'm absolutely fine yet.
6'5"?
Yeah, this size.
This bit is a bit eye-watering, but what a load of fun. The emotion, cock extension.
Right, we're going to start here on the Beneteau stand because I think with this £500,000 budget, this is about as much boat, as much real estate as you can hope to get brand new. So the base price is about £343,000, but to this spec, and this has really got everything on it that you'd want here in the show, you're looking at about £550,000, including VAT, so a bit over our budget, but I really wanted to maximise the most boat you could potentially get for that budget. Let's have a look on board. Right, this is the Beneteau Swift Trawler 37. It's the smallest model in Beneteau's Swift Trawler range, and it feels big. For the budget we're looking at, this feels like a lot of boat. Come on board and I'll show you what I mean. So you've got this cockpit area here. This seat slides forward so that you can mount a tender on the back of the boat. And then when we come inside, you can see some of the living space you're getting on this thing. And it is a boat designed to be lived on for weeks if you want to. It's a slower cruising boat, semi-displacement, single shaft, top speed of about 18 knots. But crucially, all this living area is up here on deck, lovely and bright. You've got a decent sized galley with a fridge down here, cooktop, oven underneath, the sinks there. Table over on this side, obviously this is your internal dining area, but this also drops down to convert to a double berth if you want to sleep 2 more people on board. Moving forward to the helm station. It's a boat that should be pretty comfortable for 2 people to run. You've got this really nice simple helm, big wheel, as I said, single engine, single Yanmar, which is tucked down there underneath the floor on a shaft drive. But you've got this side door, so it's very easy to move out of the helm, onto the side decks. You can help with the crewing if you're the skipper. Similarly, you've got bow and stern thrusters, so slow speed manoeuvring should be pretty simple. Over on this side, you've got a nice double seating area so that people can keep the skipper company on passage, and this also flips as well, so you get a nice desk over on this side. And then down there, we've got the accommodation. Brand new on this style of boat, you get a really decent level of accommodation. So here on the port side, there's a guest cabin. This is a pair of bunks, probably best suited to kids, but adults will be all right in here. Occasionally there is some storage in here as well. Over the way, the bathroom. And as you'll see with some of the boats on our new list, it's quite a novelty that we can stand up and have a shower pretty comfortably. Separate shower cubicle, toilets in here of course, and you've got a sink. And then right forward is the owner's cabin. And that has really good standing headroom. You've got a double bed in here that lifts up to reveal some really good storage underneath. So if you want to spend longer times on board, this boat can definitely facilitate that. You've got storage behind as well. Drawers there, wardrobe on the other side, and there's a TV mounted on the wall. But one of the benefits of this boat is actually at the top. So let's go up there. And one of the main reasons why it feels like you're getting so much for your money on this boat is because you've got 2 decks. We have a Flybridge, which is another really nice living space in itself. Seating area here with a 2-way backrest, so you can make this into a dining space or a seat for people to join somebody on passage when the boat's moving along. There's storage back there for a stand-up paddleboard. That's an option. You've got some coverage, some shade overhead, and they've even got lights built into this bimini. And there's some sunbathing space right forward in the foredeck as well. Don't forget that, you've got more living space up there. But the really nice addition to the Flybridge is having a second helm position, so you can drive from up here as well. That's pretty nice. Right, let's head off and see what else we can find new for £500,000. Before we get into the next boat, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. This content sometimes gets crushed by the algorithm, but we think it's really valuable. So please do hit like, hit subscribe, and let's spread this far and wide. Right, the next boat, the Ray Sundancer 320. This is really good, solid family cruising boat. It's about 10 meters long. Obviously, it looks very different to the Beneteau. On the face of it, it doesn't look as much boat. When we get on board, I think you'll see where your money's going. First of all, there's a reason that Beneteau is such good value, is that's because Beneteau build them very efficiently and very cheaply. This already feels like a much more expensive product. You can see just from the components, the look and feel of everything, the gauge of the stainless steel, the things you come into touch with are higher quality. And this is a real archetypal day boat. If you want to go and have fun with the family in the sun, it's fast, it's comfortable, there's loads of living space on deck. That's what this thing is about. There's a cabin down there we'll see in a moment, but you can see this is really attuned to having fun doing water sports and enjoying being out on the water. In terms of the layout, well, it's very deck focused. Obviously, so you've got this nice big seating area here, quite flexible at the back, and you've got a drop down platform. It's all about giving you access to the water as well and enjoying your water toys. There is a small galley up here on deck, more of a wet bar really, but you've still got a cooktop and a fridge there. Performance is an area where this is totally different to the Beneteau. It's a much sportier driving environment as well. Of course, it's a faster boat. It'll do twice the top speed of the Swift Trawler, 38 to 42 knots depending on engine choice. Engine choice which affects the cost, of course. Now, Ray has a really good standard spec. That's why the price is high. You don't have to add much on other brands such as Beneteau Group. The base price is good, but you've got to add a lot to it to get it to a turnkey package. This is pretty close to that with a base price. You've got to add a few extras. Engine options, well, petrol inboards, pretty good if you live in the US, but not so great. You have to pay for fuel over here in Europe. Diesel inboards as well. The initial cost is going to be higher, but then running them should be cheaper because obviously diesel is cheaper. You can also have petrol outboards. So all of this affects the price, and it totally depends on how you think you're going to use the boat. And even things like, is petrol even that well available on the water where you keep the boat? And then there's options within that too. You can add a second MFD, for example. You probably get one as standard. You have to pay to get another one. The joystick, which means you control the boat more easily at slow speed. And skyhook, which keeps the boat steady if you want to be part of the crewing as the captain when you're coming into more. So you need to consider there's the base price and then there are the key options that are going to really make a difference to your day-to-day boating. You have to tick, and that's what brings the price up. Obviously there's no side deck, so that's why you have so much beam. We've got yet more living space right here on the bow. 3 nice lounges. You can have some protection up here if you want a little bit of protection from the sun. But this is a boat that is about being out on the water, enjoying the elements. You're not going to be living on board for weeks on end, that's the key difference. But there is a cabin downstairs, so let's have a look. And this is the key difference. On the Beneteau, your living space is pretty much all up on the main deck. Here, your accommodation is downstairs, so it's much more cave-like. There's nowhere near as much room in here. You've got this open plan berth, so this is a table, but it also drops down to create a bed. But there is also a fixed bed under there, though it's not as private or as comfortable as on the Beneteau. You have got your bathroom though in the middle. Again, it's not as big, but I keep making the point. A very different use case for this. Not for a long time on board, a short time, but a fun time. Right, let's look at our final new boat. We're on the Saxdor stand now. This is their 400 GTC, and they've got quite a useful graphic here. This is all in euros, but what they've got is the starting price, 299,000 euros, an average price for a mid-spec boat, probably the type of boat that most people are going to go for, 450,000 euros, and then all in, which is probably what this show boat is, 570,000 euros, so around the £500,000 sterling that we've been looking at. It's quite instructive though, isn't it? And this isn't just a Saxdor thing. Most brands in this sphere will be doing that. A very attractive base boat price, then you've got to add a few options to get it up to the level of the type of boat you'd actually want to run day to day. And I've got the price list here, and I want to show you some of the examples as to how you get from one price to the other. So upgrading the engines from the base 300s, this is the 425s. The base 300s is how you get that 300,000 euros. If you want the 425s, it's 315,000 euros. It's 5,500 euros to get some paint on there. Navigation option, 8,000 euros. Air conditioning is 20,000 euros. A seakeeper, which is a big ticket item for a boat of this size, is 50,000 euros if you want it. So you see, you start adding these things on, and that is how the price picks up. And of course, that is one of the nice things about buying a new boat, is you can make it totally your own. Whatever options you want, you can have. You don't get that with a second-hand boat, but of course you're adding all these options and you're likely to lose money in the first year through depreciation. So that is the balance. Let me show you what this boat has to offer on board. Of course, the other thing you get with new boats is warranties. Warranties on equipment like the engines, the electronics, the hull. That's the sort of thing you're not going to get if you're buying secondhand. But onto this actual model and what it offers. We've seen a boat designed for living on board for longer periods. We've seen a really good day boat / weekender. And this is kind of a blend of the two, because you've still got this really nice living space out here and forward. But you've also got a fully enclosed wheelhouse, which we're going to see in a second. Back here, this is mainly the storage, but you can change this to have a barbecue and a sink out here, so you can cook outside, which is quite nice. On that side, it's just deep storage, but there is an inflator for things like a stand-up paddleboard. Can't carry a tender on this like you can on the Beneteau, but you know, this is a boat with the outboard. You can get nice and close to the beach anyway. You don't necessarily need a tender. This is obviously a pretty nice space to lie out in the sun, but there's also a cabin underneath, which we'll see in a moment. Let's see what it's like inside. Quite a clever door arrangement. So you have this sort of half door here. You've got the door that opens in the regular way there, and then this big window that opens up this area so that they're connected really nicely. Internal dining space. This is pretty good, really. More sociable than the Beneteau, I would say. And the table opens like that, so you can dine inside, but equally folds away so it's not in the way if you want to move around. This is a two-way seat, so this will come this way so that two people can sit facing forward opposite the galley, the wet bar. Obviously this is not quite as substantial as the Beneteau, pretty similar to the Sea Ray, but you've got induction cooking, cooling space down here, and your sink, and there's another fridge opposite. Again, this is not the live on board for long periods of time type thing, but a really comfortable weekender, and one that you can use all year round. The Sea Ray, very much a summer boat. This, you know, designed in Finland, built in Poland, designed to be used all year round. Great driving position, some similar touch points to the Sea Ray, same throttles, same joystick, used the same system, the Mercury system. It's all Mercury outboard, but obviously there are 3 different horsepower variants you can have. Either way, top speed of about 45 knots, so this is probably the fastest boat we're going to see today. Lovely dash design, triple MFDs, feels very sort of sports car-ish. If you're coming from the automotive world, if this is your first boat, it's going to feel pretty unintimidating. There's more deck space up there, but I want to show you the interior. Actually quite similar to the Sea Ray, though you've got a fixed berth, headroom. Yeah, you see, it's really for short times on board, but you have got a nice separate bathroom, switchboard down here, bit of storage over on that side, and, well, there is a berth under here, amazingly. Yes, I'm not sure anyone would really want to sleep in there, but it's quite a handy storage section. But as I said earlier on, as an option, there is another cabin at the back, so let's have a look at that. The packaging of this boat is really clever. You never really know that there's a cabin hiding under here. But you can lift up this, drop down, and there you go. Here's your cabin. Now, it's not the last word in luxury. You probably only want to sleep down here if you've had a couple of drinks, but if 4 of you want to stay on board for the weekend, it does give you that option. Little bit more privacy than the Sea Ray, but of course there's no bathroom here, so you've got to go back there to use the loo. But I think there's a lot going on here in terms of versatility, practicality for your £500,000. Right, hopefully that's given you a good snapshot of what you can buy new and the benefits of buying new. And now we're going to head over to James Barke over in Essex, aren't we, James? And see what you can get in the second-hand market. Remember, if you want to browse new and used boats, YachtBuyer.com is the perfect place to do so. You can read in-depth reviews of the new boats and compare them side by side, plus look at used boat listings safe in the knowledge that they aren't fake or repeated. Like this one from boats.co.uk, for example. Right, let's go meet up with James. Welcome to Essex Marina, the home of boats.co.uk, and we've got James here who heads up the operation. Hi James, good to see you.
Good to see you. How are you, all right?
Very well, thanks for having us down here.
No probs.
So, as you know, we've been in Düsseldorf looking at what we could buy for £500,000.
Yeah, the nice new stuff.
The new stuff, but we thought the interesting now is we can come down to here. You've got, you know, hundreds of boats on site.
Yes, we do.
In this same budget, what can you get for your money?
For 500 grand.
For about 500 grand, yeah, thereabouts.
I've got some real crackers to show you, actually.
Good, that's what we like to hear.
So, should we just jump to it?
Yeah, what have we got first?
Well, I was thinking about a V62.
Okay, that sounds big.
That sounds big, and it's got some whopping great diesels.
Okay, let's go have a look.
Okay,
come on. It's probably worth mentioning that you've got a lot of different brands on site, but you are a current Fairline former Princess dealer, so a lot of your stock is made up of those
Yes,
boats.
I mean, we know those boats the best, so we tend to have an awful lot of those in as used and brokerage.
Yeah.
But we have lots of other brands here. There's Sunseekers, there's Azimuths. There's
And obviously we're on quite a specific budget, so it also happens to be what you have in that range week by week, because it changes a lot, doesn't it?
It does. It changes every few days,
Yeah.
especially this time of year. So I've got this one, and I've got some others to show you as well. So this is a lovely boat.
Yeah, well, let's get into this. So this is a V62, 60-ish feet sports
Yeah,
cruiser.
2010.
2010.
Yeah,
So 15 years old.
yeah.
This has got a big pair of diesel engines, as you
It
said.
does. 1200s. Yeah.
Okay. And,
So it's 2,500 horsepower.
yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? And
Yeah.
this already looks like a lot more boat to what we've seen new. The biggest boat there was a 40-foot-ish Saxdor.
Yeah.
So this suddenly you think, oh well, I'm going to get this because it's so much more boat. But there's a bit more to it than that, isn't there?
You could look like Bruce's Millions with this.
Yeah. But it's not just the fact that you've got to run it, you've got to be able to handle it as well, because it is a lot more boat than those boats we've seen.
It is.
in
It
Düsseldorf.
drinks a lot more fuel.
Yeah.
It's got bigger berthing costs.
Yeah.
So everything's bigger.
What is the price of this one?
599,950. So £600,000.
A little bit out of budget, but
Tax paid, but no, that's negotiable.
tax paid as well.
Yeah, and negotiable. So time you do a deal, it'll be over 500, but not millions of miles out.
Okay. Well, should we go and have a look on board?
Definitely.
Come on then. It's probably worth discussing, actually, for a bit of context, what it would cost someone to get into one of these new, because that's going to be a long way over £500,000, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they don't make this model anymore, but the nearest comparative model would be about £2.5 million plus tax. Obviously, you'd have some of the new features and what have you, but that's the best kind of example.
And some of the key features that this one's got, we've talked about the engines, whatever.
Well, you've obviously got the high-low platform, which is lovely. You've got the big garage, so you can get a tender in there.
Williams 325.
Williams
will fit in there.
325, yeah. And just look at the size of this cockpit and saloon. It's beautiful. And the size of that opening, that door.
Yeah.
And what I love about Princesses, I just love this big, look at this big clunky hardware. That door is literally tens of thousands of pounds.
And, it's a 15-year-old boat.
Yeah.
This is where you are going to notice things like build quality and how they've lasted over that time
Well,
period.
that's the big thing, because, when you were looking at the new boats, the new Saxdor, it's a lovely boat and it looks cool and it's funky, but it won't have a door like this. And that's what you're getting
Yeah.
when you buy an older boat, which is a bit, similar money.
And you talked about the tender garage. In a scenario like this, the boat second hand, would you expect the tender to come as part of the deal, or is that varies from boat to boat?
It varies from boat to boat, but a lot of people use the tender as a negotiation factor.
Okay.
Because it's 20 or 30 grand.
Yeah.
Someone might say, well, I'll give you this, but you can keep the tender. So it's that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. Let's carry on through, see what else we've got on board. Obviously, it's a single helm.
Yeah.
It's all sort of living on one level, this type of boat, isn't it?
It is. It's really good. And I always say to people, these kind of V-style, Targa-style boats are really good if you've got a young family.
Yeah.
Because if you've got little toddlers running around, you can keep an eye on them.
You can section it all off, can't you? You can close
can.
those doors to
You
keep the
can.
saloon safe. You've got a boarding gate back there.
You can.
You've got this whole separate downstairs that we'll
Yeah.
see in a minute. Just one thing that's actually, the helm makes this point perfectly. As I can see that the MFD is new, or newer. That wouldn't have been fitted, that Ray Marie.
You love lingo, don't you? MFD.
The multifunction display, James.
I don't
I thought I read that in the listing.
I don't know. I don't. Yeah, well, I didn't write it.
But the point is, you can upgrade older boats
it
with
has,
newer kit.
Yeah, this has got a newer screen.
Yeah,
Newest GPS. Yeah, and it's got a stern thruster.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got a crew cabin, hasn't it? This
It has.
single crew
It
cabin.
has.
None of the boats we saw new were big enough to need a crew cabin. Arguably, you wouldn't use a crew cabin on a boat this size, but some
No.
people might want it there.
And I'm just looking at that cockpit bar. It's probably got a cockpit bar ice maker that doesn't work.
Avoid.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, look, you can see second-hand boats. This is the sort of thing you're not going to see in a boat show. You've got to.
I call
wear and
that.
tear.
I call that patina.
Yeah, sure. It's just showing its age gracefully.
It's good quality leather.
Yeah, no, it looks lovely, doesn't it?
If you think that's 16 years old now, and that's
Yeah, fair point. And people have been in and out of that helm seat many times.
They have.
Yeah.
That looks like a very comfy chair to me.
It does. Should we have a look at the accommodation downstairs?
Definitely. I follow you.
Well, you don't see many princesses with this colour scheme, do you? The light wood.
No, the light wood's unusual. A lot of them had cherry and walnut, but it does brighten it up.
It
down
does,
here.
and it's aged very well.
It has.
It does look.
Everything's
does look
in
tennis.
really good order. I love all the hinges and the stainless on the stalls. Everything's really well built.
Yeah, no, it's a solid feeling boat.
It is.
And a lot of accommodation compared to what we've seen new. We've got 3 cabins here.
3 cabins, yeah.
Double up there, a twin here, 2 bathrooms, I assume. There'll be a bathroom forward, won't there?
Yeah, so this one's interesting because it's a twin with a bunk bed on top.
Oh, yeah.
So actually you can get 3, if you've got 3 kids,
Yeah.
you can put them all in there.
That would probably have been a bit of a special option, I imagine.
Or just imagine how many fights the kids could have in there.
Yeah. That's the rumpus room.
I'll be Armageddon.
But, you know, this is, I keep saying it, it's a 15-year-old boat, but doesn't this layout still work really well?
It does, and actually it hasn't changed an awful lot for the new boats.
No, with the sports cruiser style, you still have this sort of separation, but it's nice. And one of the big highlights of this boat, and actually quite ahead of its time when it came out, was the full beam owner's cabin.
It was, and that cabin now is still, I would say, market leading.
Yeah.
Even if you look at the latest boats from all the manufacturers, that's still got a long way to
go and have a little
be
look,
beaten.
shall we? And show what you get.
Yeah. Can we do a laugh at the socks again?
Oh, I've been completely outdone though.
Yeah, I know, but
yeah, we can. We'll get the socks in.
Because I've got my frog socks today, and you've. I mean, they're not black, so
they're not boring. They're not.
No,
they're
so
not
you're in the game,
okay,
but
thanks.
you've obviously lost.
Not quite as zany.
Yeah,
but I've definitely lost this one. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, this cabin, you're absolutely right. You go to a modern 60-footer and you don't get a huge amount more.
You don't. I mean, we've still got the sock sofa, but we've got this lovely kind of button finish, which was, shows its age a little bit.
And the windows.
And the windows.
I still really like, but today that would be just one huge piece of glass.
But I love this big stainless.
And you can open it.
Yeah, you can open it.
Everyone whinges at me in reviews about no one cares about opening windows.
Yeah, they do.
They do. It's nice. You don't always have to do that.
Well, you've got to have a shout window, haven't you, to shout at someone.
Yeah, get out of bed, get the fenders in, off we go.
But the height, look, the height.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm just 6'1", you're probably the same, aren't you?
I'm 6'5", and I'm absolutely fine yet.
6'5"?
Yeah, there's plenty of headroom.
But there's plenty of headroom.
Bathroom over there, and even a little kind of walk-in wardrobe.
Yeah, it's just got a big feeling of space and light, isn't it?
It has, and people are probably watching going, you've just come back from Düsseldorf with boats that are a lot newer but a hell of a lot smaller.
Yeah.
Why would you not get this? Well, maybe we should go back upstairs and talk about some of the costs involved.
There is extra costs, and there's some pitfalls,
Yeah.
and there's some pros and cons.
Okay, let's go and have a chat about that.
Okay, cool.
Come on. Okay, so we ran through some of the new boat costs over in Düsseldorf, and James is now going to give us the skinny on a big used boat like this. So, James, take it away.
Yeah, so these are the stats that I do when we produce the used boat videos. So I've done the same for this V62. So I do it in sections. So the first section is buying the boat. So this boat's 599,950. You obviously less a deal, but just use that for the time being as the price. Deposit 30% if you are financing, so that's 179,985.
Would people, I mean, this type of boat, would you expect that to be financed, more cash?
It's very interesting, actually. A few years ago, a lot more boats were being financed. These days, we're probably less than 10% of boats being financed.
Okay.
But I always give the finance example because sometimes people finance the boat just for a short period of time.
Yeah.
And then they've got a payment coming from a company sale or an asset sale.
Yeah. Okay, we'll carry on with that.
So 179, just under 180,000 deposit, which means the bank would advance 419,965. The payment per month would be about £4,200, and that's based on a straight line 10-year repayment, which is quite common. The current APR, which is about 9.26%. So the finance per annum is about 50 grand.
So, and that's just the cost to physically finance the boat. That does include any of the maintenance.
That's right. That's just you buying the boat. But as I said, a lot of people just wire the money.
Yeah.
The boat's paid for, and that's what most people prefer to do.
Yeah. Okay. So you own the boat. Now let's talk about the cost of actually running and maintaining a second-hand boat this size.
This bit is a bit eye-watering because this boat has got the twin MTU 1200 V8s.
Yeah.
Which is bonkers.
It'll do 30 knots probably still, won't it?
No more.
Right, yeah.
I think you might be up to 38.
Okay, that's crazy performance.
It's crazy if you think this weighs 30, 40 tons.
Yeah, okay.
So the fuel is quite eye-watering. So speed, we do the stats on 25 knots.
Yeah.
The fuel burn.
It's always good when you laugh.
Yeah, it is. I had to double check this because we've worked it all out. Litres per hour for both engines, 400 litres per hour. Now, obviously, because diesel's gone up because of what's happening in the world at the moment, we're talking April 26. Yeah. So the price is in the UK is £1.65 a litre, which gives a cost of £660 per hour. But you have moved a house
Yeah.
25 nautical miles.
Yes, very quickly.
So yeah, so maybe it doesn't sound so bad when you do that. UK or European use, we use 50 hours.
Yeah.
So adjusted cost, if you are doing that, is quite a high bonkers £33,000
Crikey.
a year in fuel.
Yeah.
But you might not use that much. Maybe you just go around the corner and put the anchor down.
Yeah.
Then it'll be £3,000.
Yeah. Good advice. No, but it's it's genuinely worth considering this because, as I said, I think people will see that's so much boat for the money. I'm just going to go for that. But buying it is half the story, isn't it? You then got to be able to run it.
These engines in this boat are the size of a Mini.
Yeah.
And each one is having tons of diesel poured in. The pistons will be huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it is juicy. It's juicy. But what a load of fun.
A lot of fun.
The turbos. The emotion. So then we go on to fixed costs. So these are the other costs that you get when you buy any boat. But obviously they're more because it's bigger.
Yeah.
So berthing in the UK. The UK, this is a big boat.
Yeah.
For the UK. I mean, you know all the marinas you go around.
Yeah. You're probably getting towards the limit of guaranteeing you get a berth.
You've got it.
At shortish notice in every marina at this size.
I always say to people about 60 feet is the UK kind of, they think you're a big boat at that.
Yeah.
If you have bigger than that, then you're really taking the piss.
And that is something to consider with the new boats because obviously they were all a fair bit smaller than this. And that is something that will be a lot easier with those is finding space for it wherever you're keeping it, but especially the UK.
So South Coast, £22,000.
Yeah.
Servicing, we've got two engines. It is shaft drive, so it's quite simple engineering. You've got a generator. There's no seat keeper. So it's some of the older fashioned technology, which isn't silly money. So it's about £8,500 a year to service the engines and stern gear.
Machinery,
Maintenance, polishing, anti-foul, anodes, that kind of stuff. We've put down about 6,000. Insurance is £4,500-5,000 a year. It's not fortunes. So you've got fixed costs of about £41,000, roughly speaking.
Yeah.
So I think the big thing there is just the berth. People always say to us both, I can get a berth here cheaper and this, that and the other. Understood. But this is UK South Coast. Med will be more.
Yeah.
And maybe if you're in Finland or something, you can get it outside your house and it's free.
Yeah. But it's a huge boat for Finland. So, but no, so, I mean, it's realistic. It's realistic. Which is
so variable costs, I always go through these and, people can argue them with me because depreciation is obviously subjective. But at $599, $950, if we said depreciation is about 40 grand. Now, you could get away with nothing because it's kind of come down to this price.
Yeah.
But I think that it's always sensible to dial in some depreciation. And if you're on the better side of it, happy days.
Yeah.
Fuel, we've done that, 33,000 if you do that 50 hours. Finance, 50 odd grand. That's not including the repayment though, so you're actually repaying asset value.
Yeah.
Total £126,000. So you can see there's quite a few extra costs. That covers the bulk of the cost. The only other thing you might need to have is a reserve fund for the odd thing on an older boat that might go wrong. Things like fridges packing up.
Yeah. Because all the kit is as old as the boat, isn't it? So
it is.
Most of it. I mean, some of it will be replaced, like the chart plotter, but
and it's very difficult for us to, because you might have a year with no bills and you might have another year where you've got an air conditioner gone, you've got a water pump that's gone, a shower pump, and you might have to have a few grand set aside for that.
So where does that leave us then? Have you got a big total there?
Well, I can't ever estimate the one-offs. So, the total variable cost, depreciation, the fuel, the finance is 126,000.
Yeah.
So the reason we total that is we call that cash burn.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to cost you to own this boat per annum if you're going to use it.
Yeah.
Now, you might get away with a bit less or a bit more, but that's a rough idea of how much it's going to cost you. And people really want to know that.
Yeah.
Because that's the truth.
Of course. And I think the final thing to say before we move on to the next two boats is those boats that we looked at new all felt like pretty good starter boats. Maybe not the Trawler because it's a single shaft and they can be a bit tricky, but the Sea Ray and the Saxdor, people who are new to boating, that's probably quite an easy way to get into it. This, you probably need a little bit of experience to jump straight into it because it's twin shafts, it's bow and stern, there's no joystick, it's big as well.
It's interesting you say that. What we tend to advise people is if you're new to boating, buy as new as you can afford. which
Right.
means you're getting smaller.
Yeah.
Because more money, lesser of a boat because it's newer.
Yeah.
And then as you get a bit more experience, you go, do you know what? I really want that Princess. I want that Sunseeker.
Yeah.
But I can't afford a new one. And that's where these boats suddenly jump out.
Yeah.
Because they can get into it. The boater has had some experience.
Yeah.
And they know they've got to be a little bit thick-skinned to deal with boating, but the enjoyment is priceless.
Sure.
And that's where these boats shine.
And it's interesting you should say that, because we're about to go look at something cheaper, smaller, but quite unique.
Very wacky.
Very wacky. Let's go. Now, if nothing else, this demonstrates the variety of boat you can get for similar budgets on the second-hand market. This is another Princess, a very different flavour of Princess though. This is the R35. It's a 2020 boat, so it's 10 years younger than that V62. And it's got a pair of V8 430 horsepower Volvo petrol engines. Your type of boat, JB, no?
It is my type of boat, and it's got some really funky features. The first thing is it's all made of carbon fibre, which obviously Princess had never done. And I think they learned quite a lot doing that.
I think it's probably worth pointing out that this is a rare case of Princess going a bit mad. They're quite a safe company in terms of design.
Yeah.
And this was a moment where they just went for this crazy carbon fibre, sort of semi-foiling sports boat.
Well, that's what I was about to say. It's not only carbon fibre, but there's foils underneath as well. And I've driven this boat. You've driven this boat.
Yeah, we're one of the few to have actually done
driven
that.
them. Yeah. And it does go extremely well around corners, doesn't it?
It performs amazingly well.
Yeah.
But when I drove it, I thought this would be so good with just these engines in this hull.
Yeah.
Do you need the complication of the foils in there as well? And I think that
and the complication of the carbon fibre.
Yeah.
Because that was a lot of extra work for the factory.
Yeah.
But just look how pretty it is.
Oh,
it is
I mean,
gorgeous.
Absolutely, clearly, it's a lot less boat than what we've just seen.
Yeah.
But this is pretty unique. It's not quite a one-off, but they didn't build very many, did they?
No, it didn't build many. It didn't sell as well as it should. It was up against the Fairline F-Line 33, which was diesel or petrol and GRP, and a chunk cheaper.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have the foils or the carbon fibre. The amount of hours that went into this finish was just breathtaking. So there's not many of them around, and it's a real toy. And actually, I did sell it new.
This actual one?
This actual one to the first owner. He had it down in Devon for a while, and then I sold it to the current owner, who's had it since.
Yeah.
And he's got a much bigger boat. This was his weekend toy.
Which is, what it's perfect for, really.
It is.
Well, let's step on board and we'll show sort of what you actually get on board, because it is very much for having a bit of fun out the day, maybe a weekend at most, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a cock extension.
Great, let's have a look. Well, straight into the cockpit then.
Cockpit.
Where else are we going to be?
I agree.
Look, I think this was one of the issues, wasn't it, when it sold new, is it's a lovely looking thing, fantastic to drive, but there's not an awful amount of boat.
No,
at the time for the money, because how much was this new?
This was £600,000 or £700,000.
Yeah.
But it's very Reaver-esque, with the big sun lounger, that kind of tapered stern.
It's muscle boat, isn't it?
It is.
Sun pad at the back.
Yeah.
V8's underneath it.
Yeah.
Looks fantastic. Goes like stink.
Yeah.
If you want that type of boat, then this is a pretty unique proposition.
It's a piece of art, and it looks unbelievable. Look at see how it's painted. This has all been painted.
Yeah.
And this is where the cost just goes absolutely sky high.
Look at the helm as well. I mean,
Beautiful.
It does look fantastic, doesn't it?
It does. But this will suit someone who wants to just go for a blast at a weekend, show off, go for maybe some drinks with his friends, and just say, look, I've got something pretty unique.
A great looking boat.
Yeah.
It's got a joystick as well, I noticed. So this is on stern drives.
It is.
That was on shafts.
Yeah.
So stern drives, there's something different with them when it comes to maintenance, isn't there? Because they need a separate service, because you need to service the engines and the stern drives.
You do.
So there's a bit of extra cost there.
And also, I'm not a great fan of the joystick on stern drives. I don't know if you are. They are
Much better now.
Yeah.
I think this one would have been in the clunky
clunky
era. But you've still got a bow thrust to it, and you can still use the throttles.
Yeah. And it's got some really lovely details, like you see those
The
switches.
switch gear.
Yeah.
They only used them on this boat,
They
didn't
did. But again, there was no expense spared, but it just didn't land.
No, look, they went for something smaller, and they threw everything at it in terms of design, materials, engineering, in the foils. It just, I think,
Ben Ainsley.
it was developed with his
that,
company, so
yeah.
they really did throw everything at it.
Yeah.
It just maybe landed it at the wrong time.
Maybe, yeah.
Cool about that. We should just probably cover off what you got downstairs, which again isn't a huge amount.
You've got a little kind of toilet.
Yeah, and a dinette that will convert into a bed, so you can sleep on it if you want to. but it's pretty cozy.
It is cozy, but beautifully finished.
Yeah, no,
Really high quality.
it's a lovely thing for the right person. This is a special boat to have outside your pontoon, but it's a bit of a niche case.
Yeah.
The final boat we're going to look at is not very niche. I think it's a really great all-round package. It's a little bit under budget, but we're going to explain a bit of that when we get down to
Let's do it.
Come on. Right, let's come to our final boat. It's a Fairline Squadron 42.
Yeah.
And at £295,000, obviously it's well within our budget. But I thought it'd be interesting to come to a boat that's under budget, and we can talk about the costs maybe involved in bringing it up to, better condition, and then we'll still hopefully be well within our budget.
Yeah, good idea. And I've got those costs because we do it all day long.
Yeah, and it's a really solid boat. This, the Fairline Squadron 42.
Absolute rock solid, shaft drive, twin diesel, classic Fairline.
Yeah, let's get aboard and have a look. Okay, let's set the scene a little bit.
Yeah.
So Squadron 42, 40-ish feet Flybridge boat. Obviously, different style of boat to what we've seen so far. We've got the 2 decks up above. She's 2010.
Yeah.
Pair of shaft drives, Volvo Penta,
370
horsepower.
shaft drive.
Yeah, so we talked about the maintenance of those.
Yeah.
Relatively simple.
Very simple.
And it's a nice layout, isn't it? This still works.
It is, yeah.
It works really well. You've got obviously the fact you have your cockpit plus living space outside up on the Flybridge.
Yeah.
And then you've got this saloon here. But what still works really well, I think, is this layout down here.
Yes.
The fact that the galley
It's a proper galley, isn't
it's
it?
down a deck, but
Yeah.
still connects really well to this area and even the cockpit.
With the glass, and it just feels part of the socialising still, which is what people loved when we sold these new.
Yeah.
They loved the fact that, they could be preparing food and drink here and still keep part of the conversation here.
Yeah. And it's aged, again, like the Princess, it's aged pretty well.
It has very well. This was definitely before its time with the new window style and what have you.
Yeah.
And it still looks good today.
Yeah, and the woodwork has all held up really nicely.
It has, yeah.
You've got a proper galley here. You've got a couple of fridges.
Yeah.
You've not got a dishwasher, probably.
No, they're a waste of time, aren't they?
Well,
I mean, they're that big.
yeah, that's true. On this size boat, you're not going to get a decent
No,
dishwasher.
no.
But yeah, you can cook down here pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
The other thing is, accommodation's decent, 2 cabins and 2 bathrooms.
That's right, 2 heads, yeah.
So privacy's really good
Yeah.
on a boat this size. Okay, that's a twin cabin, but
Yeah.
still good enough for some adults
yeah,
to sleep in
I
there.
mean, you wouldn't want to be in there for probably more than a week.
Yeah.
But the master's absolutely lovely.
For the UK, this feels like quite a good
It is,
all-rounder.
and
good
it's
size.
because it's built heavily and it's twin diesel and shaft drive. It's a proper sea boat.
Yeah.
So you can be out in some chop and you'll still feel comfortable.
And of course, you've got the inside helm. So if the weather's truly crap, you can
can
proper
drive it,
protection
yeah,
down here.
yeah.
Now, what I thought was interesting about this is it's well under budget as it stands. But it'd be good to talk about if someone wants to buy a boat like this
Yeah.
and then spend some money on getting it back up to maybe not showroom condition, but
Yeah.
as near as damn it. What sort of things can you do? Aesthetically mainly, isn't it? And what kind of costs are involved?
It is. Well, the good thing about doing aesthetic works on boats like Princess and Fairlines is the fundamental foundations are good. So the hull is good, and the way the whole boat is built is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you do the soft upholsteries, which obviously do date and these are actually
That's
original.
probably the first thing you look at and go, that looks a bit old.
Yeah. So in terms of spending, you can easily do 10,000-15,000 on the upholstery.
For outside and inside.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that
that-
would do all your exterior cushions as well.
It would. I always think the dinghies on these, they always look a bit tired because they are older.
This has got a Williams 285 that looks like it's probably the same age
It is.
as the boat.
So that needs to go.
Yeah.
And a new Williams, you're probably looking at 25 grand there roughly.
Yeah.
Carpets, some of the woodwork blemishes, obviously for going through all the engines, servicing, and just going a little bit further, maybe some touch up and painting down in the engine room, air conditioners, heating, servicing.
Yeah.
Hull polishing, which is actually quite a big job.
Yeah. It's got a nice hull colour, this boat.
It has. They called it steel blue, but it's still grey.
Yeah.
But anyway, it looks really good still.
And you could probably get that back, but it's going to take.
It's going to take a lot of
It's a few
polishing.
quid, isn't it,
It
to get
is.
that done?
As you know, the Fairline gel coat is thick, so they can polish it back and even wet flat it back and,
Yeah.
and look like new. Into the cabins, you're going to have some bilge pumps that will probably do with changing, water pumps, and bed heads and surrounds.
A boat of this size and this age isn't going to have a stabiliser or anything like that.
No, and I don't think it needs it because it's shaft drive. It's really rock solid out on the water. You could certainly, if you were really going to town, you could get 100 with the tender, 150,000.
Yeah.
But then you have really got like a new boat.
Yeah.
It will look new, smell new.
Yeah.
And you've got the Fairline quality.
And they don't build an equivalent new version, do they? So if you do want a British-built Flybridge of this size, then looking at something like this is quite a good way to go.
And crucially, both the big manufacturers in the UK, Princess and Fairline, they've gone to 50-foot flies, so the F50 and the Squadron 50, but they are IPS powered.
Yeah.
And IPS has pros and cons. What I love about shaft drive is its sure-footedness.
Yeah.
And so actually you can't buy a new equivalent of this boat.
And it's not just the Brits. Lots of brands have removed Flybridges of this size from the range. So it's hard to fly on new boats of this size.
It's probably a little bit uneconomic.
Yeah.
So getting one of these, a good one of these, and then going to town on it, I think actually is a really good option.
Well, I was hoping that's what you'd say, because we're well within budget.
Yeah.
But it's just a different approach you can take with a used boat that is still within that £500,000.
But one important thing, I have to say this as a boat dealer, if you buy a boat of this age and then you spend that money on it, keep the boat for a few years.
Don't think you're going to spend all that money and then get it back if you sell it.
No, because it is always a 2010 Squadron 42, but it's in exceptional condition.
Yeah.
And to get your money's worth, I would say you need to be keeping it at least 5 years, enjoy it, and then it will sell at the top of that price range and maybe a way bit over the others, but you're never going to get all that money back.
That is very sound advice, and exactly why we do videos like this with James.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the thing is, I have to look people in the eye and say, I'll take it back in. I know you spent that money, but I can only give you a proportion of that back.
Yeah.
And I tell them that before they spend it, so everyone's clear.
Cool. James, that's been really interesting. Thank you very much for having us down here and talking us through all this. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Let us know what you thought of the video in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to James's channel as well.
boats.co.uk. And also thank you guys for coming down. It's been really good fun.
Great.
Going around. Good
Cheers,
to see
mate.
you.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Well, there you go. I hope that's proved interesting. It certainly has for me. On the face of it, you come here and you see what you get secondhand and you think, why would you not just buy that lovely big Princess? I'm getting so much boat. But then when James drilled down into the costs, it was quite illuminating, wasn't it? That buying it is one thing, running it is another. And of course, this is a second-hand boat, as is the Princess and the two Princesses. They've all been used by somebody. You have no real choice on the spec decisions. Of course, you can revamp them, but you have got to live with someone else's choices. The new boats, you turn up and you can have exactly what you want. And it's absolutely brand spanking new, shiny, warranties. It's a very different experience. If it were me, if I had to buy one of the new and one of the used, I think I'd go for the Swift Trawler new, because I just think that is a boat that you can do a lot with for the budget, and a boat that you could keep for a long time. Even if it's your first boat, I think it would do you very well. Used, it's easy to go, I'll go for that nice big Princess, but actually I really like the idea of buying something like this, lower budget, spend some money making it really good, because then you've got a smaller boat that's a bit more manageable, that will actually be a bit cheaper to run because it hasn't got so much kit on it, smaller engines, etc., shaft drives. I think a bit more of a manageable cost base if you want to spend that type of budget. But hey, let me know in the comments below, which new one would you go for, which used? I'd be very interested to find out. Thanks very much for watching that video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it, and remember to subscribe if you haven't done so already. We've actually filmed another prop gear episode here with some used boats with James and Hugo from MBY. That's coming up. Make sure you're subscribed and then you won't miss it. Thanks again for watching. I'm Jack Haynes. This is YachtBuyer.